Hello and welcome to the Let's Do Video podcast. I'm David Maldo, and Let's Do Video is your source for information about business video solutions and strategies. We're going to cover some industry trends here today, and instead of hitting them from the technology side, we're going to look at some user expectations and preferences and how they change over the years. I'm joined here today by Karl Hantho, leader of Videxio in the Americas. Videxio is a cloud video conferencing interop platform known for its excellent support of white labelers and partners. Now, Karl, thanks for being here today. And I know this isn't your first role in the industry, so a lot of our viewers probably know exactly who you are. But for those who don't, can you give them a brief introduction?
Well, thank you. First of all, David, let me thank you for having me on your show. And I guess we're quickly approaching your first anniversary, so congratulations to Let's Do Video for your achievements in the past year.
Thank you.
Yeah, for me, I don't know if that put me in the category of an old timer, but I have been doing video for some time. Started up back in the early 90s. With a company that was acquired by Tamberg, and then I led the Tamberg business in the Americas for probably 7-8 years. And then I've been a constant user in between before I came back to Videxio, which is now going on 2 years itself.
All right. I'll admit we go back far enough to have seen some of these trends firsthand, but I'm not ready to call us old-timers just yet. In fact, actually, the first trend I want to talk about, you don't even have to go back that far. It was just 10 years ago that we were looking at video conferencing, and the users were looking at video conferencing as a replacement for travel. You spend X dollars on video conferencing equipment, and you save more than X dollars, hopefully, on your flights. But I don't think that's the future. I don't even think that's the present anymore. I use it as an upgrade for audio. I don't make a lot of phone calls anymore. And I know you're the same way, but I think the question I have is it just us, or is it really going to be what I predict, a replacement for audio? We're really going to see the day that more people are communicating over video on a day-to-day basis than audio.
I love your forecast. I hope that that's where we go. I think, so we're definitely seeing the uptick. I think that over my 20 years in the industry, some of the compelling changes have been the improvement in quality and reliability. It has been the ease of which we can make conferences, and the ability for people to join from any device, wherever they are, whenever they are, just get access to video. And I think those are all driving the usage piece. I think we need to overcome history a bit. I think for those folks that have been around for a while and have struggled through tough calls on, I can't see you, I can't hear you, I can't share my content, or a lot of packet loss and jitter, they've got their perspective of video. And I think we need to reintroduce them today in a world where it's a lot simpler and the quality is a lot better. And they can rely on video as a key part of their communication platform.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're at a different point. I think it was exciting when it started working in demos, when the historic barriers to video conferencing, it has to be this quality, it has to have this reliability. It was exciting when that was starting to actually work. But now it's been working. It's been working for a few years. Video, it's not just good now. It's been good, and I think people are starting to get that, and they're starting to be more comfortable with trying it out. So maybe it's not that optimistic to say that it's every year since 1964, the year of video conferencing adoption, but there's a lot to be said that it's happening right now.
Yeah, and I think that as we look at things like deploying it from the cloud, and a little bit of a talk about Videxio in the story here, but as we make it easier for people to participate, easier to take video out to the masses, they can still come in on audio. That's all part of communication, grabbing whatever you can to jump into that conference. But where video is your norm, being able to come in on a browser, on your WebRTC, which you're coming in on today, doesn't require you to have prepared and gone to a purpose-built device. You just come in wherever you are on your device. And I think that that's fundamental to being able to make video conferencing part of what we do. And for you and I who do this all the time, this is our preferred way, because we can't imagine being productive perhaps on an audio conference where you're distracted and doing 10 other things. But we still need to push this out to the masses and make this how all of us do business.
Yeah, I obviously agree. I don't think we're being overly optimistic. I really do think it's happening. And it's a lot of fun to watch how it's happening. I've been really excited about the popularity of VMRs, or virtual meeting rooms. And it makes sense. That's the way we meet on audio. We call a room in the sky and everyone can join. But it's really taken off in video to the point that I'm wondering if that's the way people are just going to meet on video conferencing is through VMRs. Now, I know Videxio also supports direct dialing, and we still direct dial in audio, so maybe that needs to be an important part of video as well. I was wondering if you can give me a little feedback since you talk to your users. What do they say? Is it a nice to have, or are they saying, are they really using direct dial and is it a big part of the solution?
So, from a Videxio perspective, we still believe that point-to-point dialing is part of your toolkit. I love to be able to go in and look in my directory and just call David direct and not have to have an appointment. And we have an ad hoc conversation, and I'm searchable, and you can call me whenever you want to talk to me. So I think that the point-to-point dialing from a directory or just typing in and sort of connecting with your associates is part of that video experience. I think the piece that's going to drive the adoption more quickly, of course, is, you mentioned the term virtual meeting rooms, but the ability to go to a platform where users can come in from traditional video conferencing systems, come in from Microsoft Lync, participate on WebRTC, come in on an audio conference. The user doesn't have to get lost in what technology are we dialing on. They just come into the conference and they participate and have an equal opportunity to share content, receive content, and be part of that conference. I think those are the big changes that allow for us to have a more ubiquitous way of communicating on video. And that's what a virtual meeting room does essentially, is it does that. And it's the little things, frankly. I think it's not trying to cause you as a user to change the way that you participate in a meeting, but for us to work in a way that blends into how you do business. So we have an Outlook plugin, case in point, so that when the users, our hosts on our VMRs, have downloaded the plugin, they can just integrate that into the way that they schedule a meeting every day. Is I invite my participants, I click the information that downloads the virtual meeting room coordinates into my invitation, and it goes out. Or I can just dial from that user portal and invite people to come in via an email. And so that they know how to come in, it's just a quick link and they're participating. So not trying to make them think differently about how to join the session, but work in their way of doing business.
Well, I think those types of integrations are just absolutely crucial for adoption. For too long, video conferencing has been this separate universe. You have to leave your daily workflow, leave your office to go use it. You're never going to get mainstream adoption that way. It has to be part of the tools that we use every day. A great example is Outlook. If you're an Outlook guy, you're in Outlook all day making your meetings, and all of a sudden your meetings now have a link to a Videxio or video meeting, now you're going to start using it and you're going to start getting adoption. But it's not just the way we're using video that's changing, it's also the way we're consuming it. I know Videxio is partner-driven, channel-driven, so it really becomes part of your infrastructure, part of your workflow. It's not so much of a separate thing. I'm purchasing all my infrastructure and I'm getting video. It's part of business now. I was wondering if you can give us a little more background on why Videxio thinks that the channel way is the right way to go with video.
Yeah, so I think that so we are clearly a channels-focused platform, and a lot of our partners will co-brand or white label our service and then build their own value add around those services. So I think they understand video, they understand collaborative technologies. So the value add that they bring to their customers is extended with this service offering, and I think that again because there's no hardware requirement, and we can add new features and functionalities very quickly. The sales effort by those organizations to talk to their customers about why cloud video, as contrasted by on-prem, may be the right answer for those customers going forward is a very fun conversation, because it's very easy to take a meeting when you're talking about the cloud, and it's a very engaging one because those organizations that have already bought into why video is important to them can now understand how this next generation of video with interoperability with those different platforms I described, or just not having to invest in the hardware and manage that infrastructure, they can still have all the benefits they've enjoyed. And now they're riding on the cloud, and in our case, riding across our global MPLS network. So they've got a QoS video network for a better experience. I think it is a shift from the old days, and I can go back that far, where video conferencing was in a conference room. It was a purpose-built room that you had to go to and you had to reserve, and if it was available, then your meeting could take place. And if they could get stood up and maybe somebody had to come in and stand it up for you because it was that complicated, Now it's all self-serve. And these VMRs, like the one you're referring to, you've got your own. You can schedule to it. And once you're in this conference, and you're not doing it right now, but you could mute me, make for a very interesting conversation. Or you could add more participants, or you could lock our conference. I mean, we put a lot of those controls in your hands. So from a new features and functionality about enabling the individual user, there's a lot of exciting things for our partners to talk to their customers about that aren't, that historically weren't available to those customers. So I think that, yeah, so we're all in on the partners.
Now, I know a lot goes into supporting a partnership like that, but I'm really interested in the analytics piece. I know Videxio has always shared analytics and data with their partners, which obviously is going to help them identify adoption issues and address them as soon as possible. Recently, you shared an announcement with me that Videxio is pushing down these analytics and information down to the users themselves, the IT guys down on the ground. I think that's great. If I was one of these IT guys, I would be taking all this data, I'd be putting it into Excel and making it into different charts and progress bars and whatnot so I could see how well my team is adopting video conferencing and what my benefits are. I mean, I'm kind of big into this whole gamification of business. I'm a video gamer, and I got to tell you, when you check a chart and you see you're at 85% complete to your goal, and the next day you're at 94%, you can do anything you can to fill up that progress bar. And if that progress bar represents video conferencing usage, well, you're making your company money if you're winning the game. So I just really, I'm impressed by the analytics, and I wanted to see what feedback you've been getting from your users, how they're taking onto it, and how they're liking it.
Gamification, we should probably start with that note. So I'd love to think that our analytics become something that inspires people to want to use it more, and maybe that's sort of next generation of what we'll bring to market. We've been doing this for a long time, right? So when we first brought out our service offering, we enabled the partners to have that kind of visibility into the usage and adoption statistics, right down to detailed call records, and that was all giving them the tool set and the report capabilities to go and talk to their customers. And then to your point, I guess it was last June at InfoComm, we took out the My Videxio portal, which now put into the user's hands the ability to look at their own usage and monitor, their frequency of calls and how long they're on the calls for and who they called. And at the administrator level, to wrap that up and to roll that up into a broader look at that enterprise. I don't know. I think that people look at that for a variety of different reasons. If you're a lawyer, you're looking at it because you want to know how long did I talk to that person so I can bill them for it. If you're a more regular user, perhaps it's just remembering some video addresses that you wanted to dial back up and you hadn't saved them to your favorites. To the admins, I think there's more power. I think today that's where they're looking at more the macro view of their enterprise usage, and making sure that if they see areas where usage is low, that they can address that with some training or lunch and learns on how to take better advantage. And in other areas, it could be redeploying subscriptions and putting them in a place where they could be used more effectively. I'd love to think that the next generation makes it fun with bars that go up and rewards you for having effective meetings and succeeding in using the tool to help the businesses achieve their goals. I may have to accredit you with some ideas down the road.
Well, it would actually make sense because the benefits aren't just imaginary. I mean, you were talking before about how in the old days we'd have to have a tech sitting there in the room to make sure it happened and drag people into. You will use video conferencing. The reason we did that is because despite the headache, it brought that much value and that much benefit. It was worth the expensive hardware and the tech support and everything else we did. So now if it's easy and all we have to do is sort of monitor and say, for some reason this team isn't using it as much for whatever reason, or these times of days or whatever we can learn. If you get a little gold star for that, it's a well-earned gold star because you're making your company money. So
yeah, no, I think that you're onto something there, and we're going to continue. I mean, that's part of our focus around the user experience is finding ways that that we can make it effective, make it something that drives utilization for the enterprises and for our partners, and that may be the gold star, maybe the way to show that we've come a long ways on that subject.
Yeah, we've definitely come a long way. I mean, the historic barriers to adoption are gone, and they've been gone for a couple of years, and the users are noticing, and we're seeing the uptake. So it's a pretty exciting time to be in our industry. And with that, I'd like to thank you, Karl, and thank Videxio for joining me here today. If you'd like to learn more about Videxio, please go to videxio.com. And always please check us out at letsdovideo.com. Thank you.